This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Today's episode of Doc and Jock is brought to you by Score, a new mobile app coming soon. Score is an interactive game that lets users win deals at bars and restaurants based on what's going on in live sporting events. Find new places to watch games and save money on your bill at the same time by taking advantage of Score's unique interactive specials that give you an additional stake in the action. A Score special can be anything a location wants it to be. From 10% off an item if a team scores a touchdown to a free round of drinks if a quarterback throws for 400 yards. Any stat can be turned into a game. Pick the deals you want to win, watch the games you want to watch, and score deals in real time. The app will update when your team or player records a relevant stat. When the conditions of your deal are met, coupons are sent to your device to show your server or bartender. It's that easy. Score is coming to the App Store and Google Play soon. For more information, check them out on the web at score-app.io and follow them on Twitter and Instagram at ScoreDeals. Score. Watch games. Score deals.
Is there a sports podcast in Detroit that people are talking about?
Hey, everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Detroit Sports Podcast. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me, my cousin, Adam, the Jock Strozinski. What's up, cuz? What's going down?
We actually have a football team. We can legitimately say we have a football team. Our Detroit Lions are legit. We had a statement game last week, and we proved that we are legit. Go Lions! Yeah! That's right, Jarvie. Go Lions!
So, at this point in time, you're ready to claim that the Lions have arrived at 3-1?
Lions are here, dude. Lions are the real deal.
What makes you say that at this point in time of the season?
Okay, you sit there and you take a gut punch when you sit there and you come up 3 inches short against the Falcons, right? Jim Caldwell's able to get this team turned around, get them focused. They go on the road to a divisional rival, and they go and they win in Minnesota's house. And you didn't win a pretty game. You didn't win by scoring a bunch of points. It wasn't a track meet. You sat there and you won a gritty, dirty game. You know, you sat there, you got production from your offense, you got production from your defense, and you got production from your special teams. And you sat there and you took care of this team. There were times where Minnesota could have sat there and punched the ball in, could have threw a touchdown, could have did anything. And you either A, forced a fumble, or you stymied them. You showed up to play on Sunday. You took care of business. Now you've got a bigger game coming up this week. We have a football team. The Detroit Lions have arrived. And look, I know it's hard for people out there. I get it. I know what this team has done to you. It's done it to me too. You know how many times I've sat there and I've been so pissed off and so angry on a Sunday afternoon, and then that rolls into a Monday, and then finally sometime around Tuesday I start to feel good about my life, and I don't want to sit there and go kill myself just because I can't stand what this team is doing to me. So I get it. I know where you're at. I totally understand. But look, you got to look at what's going on the field. You got to look at the product. For years and years and years, Matt Stafford has been the one who's had to carry this football team, right? And I still think he has to carry this football team at certain points, all right? But you're getting other contributions from other guys, and it's just not on the offensive side of the ball. We have a legit defense that's going to help you win games.
So you know who else is on the Lions bandwagon? Skip Bayless earlier on Wednesday came out at the end of his show, and he said, look, the Lions have been overlooked. They were mere inches away from being 4-0. They have a great quarterback. They have a coach now that is putting together a quality system both on the offense and the defense. Like you and I have asked for, they have coordinators that have put a system in place that can be repeated, and you can now plug and play different players. Even when there is a plethora of injuries, the Lions are out here performing. And so, yes, we do have a decent football team that's going to compete. And I do give the Lions credit for playing an unbelievable brand of football. But at the same time, I would also I'm excited to see what the Lions are going to look like against the class of the NFC North. What do the Lions look like against the Green Bay Packers? Because Minnesota, you have to acknowledge that they're playing with a backup quarterback. Case Keenum is not going to light the world on fire. And then,
but that's
Dalvin
coming off
Cook,
a week where Case Keenum sat there and lit the world on fire. He played his absolute best game, and I think he was the best quarterback during, what was that, week 3? You can say that, but again, time and place, and look at what Case Keenum did the week prior.
And at the same time, you have to also acknowledge that Dalvin Cook was doing some things. Boom. He suffers a non-contact injury, blows out his ACL, and then Minnesota, after that, looked like a terrible football team.
You know what, though? I don't want to hear that because the Lions are dealing with injuries all over the place, too. If you look at their linebacking core, I mean, they're basically pulling pizza guys off the street to come and fill in right now. I mean, if they're at a certain point at Sunday's game, they had 3 linebackers in there where I was like, who are these guys and where did they come from? Like, they had just like free agent signings in there playing linebacker because their entire linebacking core is decimated. On top of that, your left tackle is Greg Robinson, a guy that you had to go trade for, a guy that the Rams didn't even want. They're like, he's garbage. We can't do anything with him. Here you go.
And you'd argue that he had a decent game after being called out.
Exactly. So I don't want to hear that. Injuries are part of the game. They're going to happen. You as a team have to be able to sit there and roll somebody else out there to take that next person's spot. That's why they say it's next man up. So the Lions are dealing with injuries too. I know what happened with Dalvin Cook, and it's brutal. If you're a fantasy owner out there and you've got Dalvin Cook, I'm sorry. His knee went kaboom. His ACL is gone. All right? I am sorry. He'll come back next year. He'll be bigger, better, and stronger. But for right now, it's what it is. You know what I'm saying? Look, you had him for about a half. You know what I'm saying? And you still couldn't get anything going. So I don't want to hear it.
What was the favorite part of the contest between the Lions and the Minnesota Vikings? Was it the gritty nature? Was it Matthew Stafford not performing, yet the defense standing up and really taking the football team and carrying it on its shoulders? What impressed you about the Lions on Sunday?
You know what? I thought the entire game, I actually loved the entire game. Let's go there. Because I was nervous the whole way through. I was terrified. Because you've seen this as a Lions fan. You sit there, it's a close game, it's back and forth, going into the half, it's 7-3. Next thing you know, Lions come out, they're kind of on fire, and then you're expecting the rug to get pulled out from underneath you. You're expecting your Charlie Brown, and you're expecting Lucy to pull the football away, and you're expecting to fall flat on your back. And that's what I was waiting for. I was waiting for Minnesota because at certain points in the third quarter and in the fourth quarter, they had the ball in scoring range. They had the opportunity to sit there and put points on the board, and that defense stymied them, stopped them cold. And I was just waiting for that point where Minnesota would sit there and put some points on the board, and then it would be like the tables were turned and the Lions were having to sit there and battle their way back. And you know what? It never happened. It was a nail-biter the whole way through. If you're a Lions fan, you have seen this time and time again. You've seen this script written. You know how it ends, and you always end up with the L. Not this week. This week, you end up with the W. I was impressed the whole way through. Look, Matt Stafford did not have a typical Matt Stafford game, right? No touchdowns. The only way they scored was by running the ball. And if you go back there and you look at Amir Abdullah, if he doesn't get hurt, he probably has a 100-yard rushing game, something that we haven't had in what?
Since 2013. Unbelievable.
2013,
huh?
Okay, so 4 years. But forever, right? Not since Reggie Bush. Reggie Bush was the last one to do it there. So it's been forever in a day, right? And then you look at the defense. The defense just continues to produce and continues to produce. And Ziggy Ansah's hurt again. He's got a bum knee. But you know what? You sit there, you plug another guy in there, and you know what? Anthony Zettle's sitting there getting to the quarterback. It's a 14-yard sack. Next thing you know, they're almost out of field goal range at that point.
Great point, and I want to bring it up too because Anthony Zettel has kind of chirped a little bit and said, look, everybody, Lions Nation, fans, the media, you all have overlooked the quality of our defensive line. We can do some things, and Anthony Zettel, number 69, is doing some things. Did we underestimate what this defensive line can really do?
I don't know if we underestimated it, but, I mean, look, you lose a guy who had 8 sacks last year going into this season. And what are you expecting at that point? You know what I'm saying? He was the guy who sat there and wreaked havoc on quarterbacks last year, and Kerry Hyder goes down in the preseason. What do you want? You know, I mean, Anthony Zettel is playing essentially out of position. You know, he's normally a linebacker usually, but now they've got him in this DN spot, and he's playing extremely well. He's producing. Ziggy Ansah was a guy who we expected to have a rebound season, and he looked good for a couple games, and now he's back to what we had last year, and that's a beat-up Ziggy Ansah. So I don't know what you expect to get there. The thing is, he demands a double team. Because if you let him loose and he gets by you, he's going to get your quarterback. It's just the way the guy is. So, look, I don't know if we underestimated the defensive line. I think that we all believe that if this defense had any hope to do anything, it was going to be with that front four. It was going to be with those guys. They were going to have to cause havoc and push that pocket and sit there and make the quarterback uncomfortable. And they've done it the first 4 or 5 games here
The most impressive aspect of the game to me was the number of takeaways. All of 2016, the Lions had 14 takeaways. Already this year, they forced 11 takeaways. That defense is allowing the Lions to have extra possessions. They're getting off the field quickly, and that's the name of the game. When you can have a plus differential in terms of turnovers, you're going to put yourself in a lot of good situations. And I hope it continues, because it does seem like it's an aggressive defense that is going to force some turnovers, but you're going to need to continue that going forward. Now, the other part that is concerning is that offense, because we've had quality defenses. Terrell Austin is a man that is going to be a head coach in the National Football League. You see it, I see it. He puts out a quality defense more often than not. It seems like the schemes are really helping the Detroit Lions. So now on the other end of the football, you go, Jim Bob Cooter, has he stalled out? Does the offense have enough talent to execute what they need? Are they really impacted by the injury to a rookie wide receiver in Kenny Galladay, who has been sidelined with a little bit of an issue with the hamstring? What I see is you're missing that final piece. Okay, and I'm biased now because the last couple evenings I've been sitting and watching NFL's Football Life. And one of the last ones they did was Emmitt Smith. And you saw what the Cowboys look like without Emmitt Smith, and you saw what they look like with him. And you say to yourself, oh, the last cog that this offense needs is a horse at running back. That's the last cog. Now, you can work on the offensive line. You can obviously surround Matthew Stafford with more talent at tight end and wide receivers. But the last cog, the final piece that I believe could have taken us to that next step, is if maybe you took a gamble and gotten Kareem Hunt. Because I feel like if he was on the Lions right now, maybe you would have had the 100-yard rusher. Maybe now we're not pressing a little bit more on that offense. You're scoring more. You are actually executing the plan, which I respect, which is control the football, utilize the run. It's just, it gives me pause for concern when the running game seems like a lot of effort is needed to execute a 4-yard run. And so I agree with you. The Lions are there. But if you want to ask me, what's that final step between a quality regular season and now winning a couple games in the playoffs? We need our Emmitt Smith, baby.
I agree with you 100%.
We need that horse.
The run game does make you question what's going on, because there is such a concerned effort from this offense, from these offensive coordinators, to try to run the ball and to establish the run. It's almost painstaking at this point. And I think at some points they get away from what has made this offense so dynamic, and it is Matt Stafford, and it is the play calling in the passing game, because now they're focusing so much on the running. And look, we've discussed it before. They have to be balanced. They've got to be balanced. They have to be able to run the ball as effectively as they pass the ball. And I think at this point, this early in the season, I think Jim Bob Cooter has made a concerted effort to sit there and run the ball for this team. Well, look, it doesn't matter what the down distance is, we're running the ball. It doesn't matter what it's going to do to our game plan, we're running the ball. We're not going to take with the defense. We're not going to let the defense dictate to us what we have to play. We're running the ball. And I think they've been doing it to a fault. Do I think that will change? Do I think they'll eventually correct that? Yes, I do. I think at this point right now, he is, and when I say he, I mean Jim Bob Cooter is trying to put the league on notice. Like, look, we're going to run the ball. It doesn't matter what you throw at us. We're going to run the ball, and we're going to show you that we can run the ball. And yeah, I don't think it's been as effective as it probably could be, nor do I think it's as effective as it probably should be. And I think if you had a guy like a Kareem Hunt in there, it'd be different. But you know what? You got the pieces that you got, and you got to make the best out of what you have, and that's what they're doing.
So are you buying or selling the Lions running game as the season progresses getting better?
I think it will. I think you've seen last week, look, the Vikings are the 12th ranked defense. That being said, that's the highest ranked defense that they've played thus far this season. So you almost had a 100-yard rusher with Amir Abdullah. If he doesn't get nicked up, which is going to probably be an issue going forward in the season, is he's going to be getting hurt. It seems like every game he's missing the final few snaps of the game because he's on the sideline dealing with some type of nagging injury. I think through the course of the year, yes, it'll get better. I think what will end up happening, though, is you're going to see this offense tend to get away from the run as much. I think what it'll do is it'll be close to being 50-50, but I think there's going to be certain games where it's going to be more 60-40, maybe 70-30 towards the passing game. And then there'll be other games where the run's going to dominate, and it's going to be more 60-40. It's going to, I think at some point, Jim Bob Cooter is going to have to realize whatever is going to help us win games and whatever is going to get us to the promised land, we're going to have to go with the hot hand. If it's going to be the running backs or if it's going to be Matt Stafford in his arm.
Okay, so you're thinking that this could get better. I'm selling. I'm thinking that, like you said, I'm thinking potentially you might have to utilize just a little bit more of Theo Riddick than you did versus the Vikings, because it was noticeable in terms of his lack of production in that contest. I feel like they're going to try their absolute best to get Amir Abdullah, around 15 to 20 carries a game, and hopefully he can get over 100 yards. People are saying, like, look, we are seeing some things in him, but at the same time, when I look at it a little bit closer, I am seeing him missing holes. I'm seeing him running, not straight down the field, running a little bit towards the sidelines, and at the same time, I feel like he's using up a lot of energy to get 3 yards. And so I'm not exactly certain that you're utilizing Amir Abdullah in the proper role. Whereas, other athletes that you could see could potentially do other things. So I'm hoping that maybe on film, when Bob Quinn sees it and goes, okay, now I've seen Amir Abdullah another season and what he's capable of, that they will upgrade. Now, we're not saying that Amir is terrible. He can do the job at this point in time. But what I'm nitpicking is, can this be sustainable? Can it get better? And I'm thinking I'm not so certain that 95 yards might be the ceiling for this guy because of the fact that defenses are honing in on what the Lions are doing, and you need that little bit of extra talent that an Emmitt Smith had, that extra little bit of elusiveness to get through some obviously tough defenses. And so that's why I'm selling. I don't think the running game with Amir Abdullah is giving me the confidence that I need that future success is going to happen.
Do you realize, looking at the box score, Matt Stafford sat there had 31 pass attempts, and the rush game had 31 attempts itself. I mean, dude, that's 50-50 right there. And that's what I think we've been calling for, that we've been asking for that for a long time now. We've always wanted to see them sit there and run the ball as much as they pass the ball. I don't know if it's just the running back. I don't know if it's Amir Abdullah. I don't know if he's just not comfortable. I mean, he had 20 carries on Sunday. That's a ton. You know what I'm saying? That's a lot for a running back. And I don't think either one of us believe that he's a number one horse. We both, I think he's a complimentary player. I would like to see Theo Riddick get more touches. If that means, look, Amir Abdullah gets 15 and Theo Riddick gets 10, I'm cool with that. You know what I'm saying? I need to see Theo Riddick involved in this offense more. I think he's more of a dynamic player than Amir Abdullah. I think Amir Abdullah's got speed, and that's what makes him so dynamic. But I think the things that Theo Riddick can do when he gets the ball and he gets the ball in open space, I think it's more effective than what Amir Abdullah can do.
So now, upcoming, you got a quality matchup versus Carolina. It was a very impressive performance, what Carolina and Cam Newton were able to do versus New England. Now, granted, New England's defense is porous. They're horrible. They're giving up points galore, maybe making us eat a little crow here in Detroit, because we were like, oh, look at Kyle Van Noy going over there to New England. Now he's part of one of the worst-ranked defenses in all of the National Football League. But you have to give credit as well to Carolina. They're doing some things. What are you looking for this contest? Sunday, a big one, 3-1, starting the second quarter of the season at home. A great chance to go 4-1 and really start to bring people on board the bandwagon.
Yeah, I think this is a statement game. This is another statement game. Look, you had a big game against Minnesota. Now you're going to sit there and you're going to take on a team that this game right here might be the difference between you getting home field advantage if you're able to sit there and make it to the playoffs. This might be a tiebreaker, because the way Carolina's playing right now and the way you're playing, you both look like you're headed to the playoffs. This could be the difference whether or not you're going to get a first week bye, whether you're going to get home field advantage. There's a lot at stake in this game right here. That being said, I think Detroit can come out, and if they can contain that running game that Carolina is going to throw at you, whether it be Cam Newton, Christian McCaffrey, or Jonathan Stewart, I can't believe he's still in the league. The fact that guy is even held together this long, if you can contain that run game and you can sit there and you can force Cam Newton to beat you with the pass, I like the secondary that Detroit is showing right now. I love what Glover Quinn's doing. I like what Darius Slay is doing. I will take Detroit's secondary over the pass game that Carolina is going to throw at you 9 times out of 10.
Do you co-sign what Rodney Harrison said on national television? And we'll talk about this too, because our supporters are really keening in on what Skip Bayless said. They don't want the man from FS1 on the Lions bandwagon.
Oh, I don't want him either. It makes me feel dirty and feel bad. Yeah.
Why?
Do you like Skip Bayless? Let's start there. Do you like Skip Bayless? Do you like him? Do you think he's credible in the things that he says and what he does?
Okay. Granted, we all know that the authenticity of Mr. Bayless is probably not there. But in terms of what he's executing, in terms of the fact that people talk about him, look, we just bring up his name and said, hey, he's co-signing with the Lions. We've gotten 50 messages like, no.
He's a talking head.
Yes.
He does things for ratings.
Yes.
He's just like Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith opens his mouth, and I don't want to hear anything he has to say because I don't find it to be credible. Because what he does is he says things to get ratings and to get a pop. That's what he does.
But see, isn't that the name of the job, in that you have to somehow draw attention to yourself somehow? If you just, go out there and start chirping sports and nobody's listening, and granted, some people are looking at Skip Bayless's ratings, but he's still on the air. He does summon a boatload of money in terms of how he leveraged himself from ESPN over to FS1. So, am I a big fan?
How's that working out?
The check's still clear, man. So
that's true.
So
I think once his contract's done, FS1 might be like,
we might be saving some money. But at the same time, in terms of building up the brand of debate, that's what he did. A network like ESPN really invested heavily. So do I respect it? Not necessarily, but do I listen to it? Yeah, I like the banter between him and Shannon Sharp, and I like Joy, hosting the show. So I kind of like that show a little bit better than I like Stephen A. Smith and Max Kellerman. So I am a fan.
Even though your girl's on First Take?
I like First Take.
Molly Kieram's your girl. You were the first one that I know who was on Molly Kieram's bandwagon, maybe besides me, because she would come on and be like, "Who's that?"
Exactly.
And then I'd call you and be like, "Hey, did you see NFL? Were you watching NFL Network?" Exactly. I was like, "Who's that chick? She's hot."
Exactly. So FS1's doing their thing. They're trying to at the same time go towards digital and do their thing. But you don't want Skip Bayless on the Lions bandwagon, huh?
Here's the thing. I like that the national media is taking recognition of what the Detroit Lions are doing. I think that's a good thing. And I like what is coming out of the Detroit Lions locker room. They're saying, hey, we don't care about what everybody else is saying about us. We want respect on the field, and we want you to know that we're here. So I like where their mindset's at. It's not one of those things where, hey, we've arrived. We've seen that Detroit Lions team. We've arrived. And you know what that is? That Detroit Lions team misses the playoff. All right? They don't get there. All right? And they don't show up every single week. I like what I'm seeing coming out of the locker room. I like what I'm hearing. And I like the fact that the national media is recognizing that. I mean, look, have you ever heard of the Detroit Lions being number 2 in the NFL's power rankings? Never. That never happens, dude. Never, ever in a million years has that ever happened. I don't think since I've been alive and I've graced this earth for 34 years, I don't think that's ever happened. Even when they had a Sue-led defense, I don't think that ever happened. All right, but it's happening now.
Go Lions! Yeah!
That's right, Jarvie. Get that cornbread going. Get me some Kool-Aid, bro. Honolulu Blue. It tastes so good. I love when it touches my lips. But here's the deal. I think they're legit, man. I think they got a good defense. And look, they're going to face Carolina this week. I think they get the W this week. I think the way they have to do it is they've got to sit there, contain Carolina's run, and they've got to force Cam to pass. And the moment you force Cam to pass, you can expect more turnovers. That being said, I think this offense can pick apart that defense for Carolina. I'm not impressed by it. Look, Carolina went and they took care of business against an abysmal Patriots defense. If Matt Patricia has a job, he's got pictures of Bill Belichick being naked, wearing a bra and panties. That's the only way. I wouldn't be surprised if Bill Belichick takes over the way the defenses ran some point this year, because that defense is that bad right now.
Okay.
It is that bad. If you watch enough football, you would recognize that that's not your typical New England defense. And that is forcing a guy like Tom Brady to sit there and go out there and have to throw 4 touchdowns every single game just to be competitive.
All right, so you're thinking Lions win? I'm thinking as well it's going to be a close contest. Again, a fourth quarter game. Both teams are going to be looking to, do some things offensively. But
Carolina's
for the Lions,
a good team.
You got to force some turnovers. I think that Darius Slay, Glover Quinn are doing some things. Anthony Zettel, Ziggy Ansah, quality defense, and it's nice to see. And then you got to remember too, guys, and everybody out there listening, you got to remember the Lions are 3-1 without significant contributions from linebacker Jared Davis.
That's right.
Wide receiver Kenny Galladay. Tease Tabor, second-round pick, has been utilized minimally. So at this point in time, you could be looking at 3 additional pieces that in the second half of the season can actually contribute and make this football team a go. And so I think that, the edict from me for Bob Quinn is watch the film and really evaluate Amir Abdullah and tell me that you don't think that you could upgrade that position, finally get that last cog to the puzzle, get that stud. You might have missed 2 of them, but Dalvin Cook now, unfortunately, he's gone. You might have missed 2 studs. Kareem Hunt might be a franchise guy, and you missed on him, and you got Tease Tabor as a result. But if you can make this a patchwork thing, then
or you got Kenny Galladay as a result.
But
you could have not traded back and picked him up.
But now we're 4 games in, and his star has kind of slowly faded away. And I'm like, well, the chub that I had for Kenny Galladay has kind of gone away. It's like when it's negative 50 degrees
outside. You just need
outside.
to be fluffed again.
Yeah, it's
just put your hand in your pocket and jiggle it around. It'll be okay.
There's no worse feeling than when you walk outside and it's like negative 15 degrees, and your nuts shrivel up, and you're like,
everything
damn.
climbs back inside of you.
Exactly.
Next thing you know, you have a vagina.
Exactly. So that's what it is now with the draft picks. But hey, we're still 3-1, so we'll take it, right?
Oh, absolutely. Look, here's the thing. I think that this team, the way they're rocking and rolling right now, I think it's all good. Everything is good mojo right now, okay? If you can get some pieces back, I expect Jared Davis to be back this week. Do you?
Yep.
Okay, I expect him back, and I think he makes a significant difference on that defense. I think he is the best player for that position that this team has right now. So you get your starting middle linebacker back, I think instantly that defense now looks that much better. All right, I think it becomes that much different for Carolina. I think it becomes more difficult for them, and I think what you're going to get is a much better defense. So, look, I think everything all points straight up. I think the mojo arrows and everything is good right now. I think Jarvis got the cornbread going. I know he's working in the kitchen, swirling me up some Kool-Aid, and at some point, I'm going to have the Kool-Aid man breaking through the wall saying, hell yeah, and that's where it's going to be at, man. It's good. Everything is good right now. All right, and I think we'll know more about this team come the halfway mark, and I know you're going to say, no shit, dummy. Like, no duh. And I understand that. But look, we have a huge game in Lambeau against Green Bay, and it always comes down to how they play against Green Bay. I think if they can go into Green Bay, if you can get to that point right there, and you're 6-2 at that point, dude, I think you're set up really nicely. This is the daunting part of the schedule right now, because after that Green Bay game, you're gonna go take on the Browns. That's a W. You can go take on the Bears. That's a W. Look, we just sat there and we counted how Dalvin Cook is dead. Not really sure what Sam Bradford's issue is. You know what I'm saying? So you can beat the Vikings again. There's another win. So you're 6-2. So now you're what? 9-2. I mean, at 9-2, you're gonna go take on a Ravens team that I'm not really sure what they are. Their defense looks okay, but their quarterback looks like crap. I'm not really sure what that is. You can get a W there. Believe me, you can get a W. 10-2. You're talking to me about 10-2, and you still got to play the Bears again? Come on, man. That screams NFC. That screams NFC North champs. And I don't want to get too far ahead, but
we're getting to that point, cause yes, 2 more games. If we can get some quality wins, then the expectation will change, and then we'll be sitting here saying, look, it's time for the Lions to host a playoff game. Let the fans of Detroit celebrate our football team, and let's go for it. Let's get that playoff victory. Let's see what this season can bring. But I just don't want the offense to be the detriment of this team, because so much has been put into that offense. The highest paid player in the NFL is the quarterback of the Lions, and it would be a shame if the playoff game happens and you're leading 24-17 and you need to run out the clock with the run and you blow it and the other team comes back and ties it, goes to overtime, and you lose the football game. It would be a damn shame.
You're absolutely
and
right.
If that happens, the next time we come in here, I'm going to explode and play this shit that I just said, because of the fact that I think you're one piece away.
You're absolutely right.
I think you're one piece away from a Super Bowl team.
Yeah, I can see that. And I'm going to allow myself to sit there as a Lions fan to believe that and to buy in, because I'm right there with you, dude. I'm right there with you. They need to, again, the run game, ever since Barry Sanders has left, has been an issue for this team. It seems like we've got our quarterback. It seems like we have some pieces at wide receiver. I don't know. Marvin Jones shows up sporadically. You know what I'm saying? He's like a partner I have on another podcast. He shows up sporadically. It's just one of those things. If they can get the run game figured out, it's all going to be good.
Okay, there's only really one way to introduce our next topic, and I'll let you sit back and enjoy as we intro one of the best rivalries in all of Michigan.
Get it out. Whoa, he has trouble with the snap, and the ball is free. It's picked up by Michigan State's Jalen Watts Jackson, and he scores on the last play of the game. Unbelievable.
Oh, just watching that. I should really play that every week. You got the State fans cheering, hands in the air, Michigan fans looking stunned. Unbelievable. The old timers are in the stands going, what the hell did I just watch? Yeah, no, Jalen Watts-Jackson, he's looking decrepit with his old hip, but what a clip, man. It's still great. It's that time of year, cuz obviously you sitting over there listening to that.
I'm so upset right now.
Are you over it?
No, like it hurts every time I hear it because I remember exactly what happened after that. I was sitting there with my buddy Scott. We were watching the game at a bar, and I was in the middle of a steak dinner actually, and I was only halfway through my steak dinner. I sat there, I put my silverware down, I pushed my plate forward, and I didn't touch my steak after that. I was so upset, and then what followed could only be described as embarrassment upon my part, as I allowed you to troll me for what seemed like hours. I think it might have only been 2, but it seemed like an eternity where I would then go back and forth with you in kind of in an inebriated state. I wasn't hammered, but I was kind of, let's just put it this way. Drinking and Twitter do not go hand in hand.
No.
And the next morning I had to wake up in all of my embarrassment, and I had to go through and delete Twitter message after Twitter message after Twitter message.
Now, if you had the option, if Twitter does finally let you have 280 characters, would you accept it if you had the opportunity to decline it? Because let's say you do get inebriated, now you can double the amount of words you can use.
And we see that on this podcast, I get into rants and I just go on and on. Nah, hell yeah, I would take that.
That's awesome, huh?
Yeah, because that way, instead of having 4 messages, I can sit there and get it down to 2.
Unbelievable. How are you feeling ahead of the contest? Saturday night, 7:30. What are your plans? How are you viewing this epic matchup? One where I think as the weeks have progressed in the fall, many people are thinking, okay, maybe at first they thought that Michigan was going to dominate Michigan State. As the quarterback situation has evolved for Michigan, now the change has occurred, and you see what Michigan State's able to do. It might be even a closer contest than many had originally thought.
Well, I'm going to be taking this game in with a mixed party. It's going to be some Spartan fans, some Wolverine fans, so it should be interesting. We'll be out drinking, enjoying it all, taking it all in at a local establishment, one that you frequented. I think maybe a different one than you go to, but one that I go to every single week. So we'll be taking it in there, watching the game. I think that this is going to be a very good game. I think, what is it right now? I think Michigan's like a 13-point favorite or something like that.
The line's steadily declining, I do believe, as time has gone on.
I think this is going to be a really good game. And I think you can expect a really good game, and you should expect a really good game. Look, I know everybody likes to throw the record book out when these two teams play, and I really believe that you can throw the record book out when these two teams get together this coming Saturday. It's going to be a very, very good game.
Okay, give me the keys for the Michigan football team in order to defeat the Michigan State Spartans.
They're going to have to sit there. Oh, there you go. There you go. Let that wash over you. My man. I love you. I love you so much right now. I hate you for playing that clip you played earlier, but I love you so much right now. I want to come over there and I want to kiss that head of yours. That ain't a 4-head. That's like a 5 or a 6-head. That hairline is receding, bro, and it's okay because I'm right there with you. My 4-head is turning into a 5-head too. And this is how Michigan is going to beat Michigan State. This is what they're going to have to do, all right? They're going to have to sit there. They're going to have to stuff the run. Force the workie to beat you with his arm. You can't even allow him to get out because we've talked about it before. He's almost a dual-threat quarterback. Once that guy breaks free, we talked about him being able to sit there and break off a 60-yard run. And in the course of that run, kind of slow it up, look behind him, and say, oh, I see you. Okay, hold on. Watch me sit there and get running again. To the end zone. So you're going to have to sit there and force Lewerke to beat you with his arm. So that being said, that secondary, you're going to have to show up. That secondary, we got a lot of question marks back there. I mean, we know that front 7 is lethal and can sit there and put a hurting and a working on just about everybody and anybody in the Big Ten. They're going to have to show up, and they're going to have to make life miserable for Michigan State's offense. Now on offense for Michigan, John O'Korn, here it is. Your time's come, right? We've talked about it. We've talked about it for a couple weeks now. Is this offense going to be better with John O'Korn under center? Now we get to see. John O'Korn's going to have to show up. He's going to have to do what he did against Purdue against Michigan State. He's going to have to score touchdowns in the red zone. This run game is going to have to take over the game, though. Guys like Ty Isaac, they're going to have to show up, okay? You're going to have to sit there, and you're going to have to be able to run the football, all right? And you're right. The line has steadily decreased over the course of this week. It's now down to 11 points. And that being said, this game never goes as planned. Never, ever. You just play trouble with the snap. Michigan special teams are going to have to sit there, and they're going to have to play a major part in this. Quinn Nordin, we're going to need to see that golden foot of yours. I'm going to need you to kick a couple field goals because it's probably going to come down to a field goal or two.
So how confident are you in John O'Korn being the guy? Because this is what it's going to come down to. Is Michigan going to be conservative? Are they going to utilize Ty Isaac to try and penetrate Michigan State's defense? How confident are you in Michigan's offense in this contest?
I'm pretty confident, and I'm not so confident where I'm boasting and I'm just like, it's spilling out of every pore on my face, and I've got some deep pores on my face. There's one or two that you could probably go swimming in. It's not to that level, but I think this offense, especially having the week off, I think it's going to sit there and it's going to be a little bit different. I think they're going to utilize their tight ends, and that's something that we've discussed before, is this offense looks much better when they utilize their tight ends, when that run game gets going, and if John O'Korn can step in and he can sit there and he can get the ball down the field, make some smart plays, make some good passes. You don't have to sit there and don't throw into double and triple coverage. Just take what the defense is giving you. Don't turn the ball over. I don't want to say he's going to be a game manager because I don't like that term, but he's essentially going to have to manage the game. Let the run game do its job and get that ball to your tight ends and get that ball to your receivers downfield. And that's what's going to have to happen. And I think he's going to be able to do the job. Again, like I said, he got thrust into action 2 weeks ago against Purdue. Did a really nice job. I think now you have a week off. It's another week to really sit there and get comfortable with your center and get comfortable with what you got going on as far as a playbook and the way that Michigan State plays offense and defense. So I think this whole entire team can come together and they can take advantage of that. And I do think Michigan sits there and is able to get a win this week.
Now, the other aspect, too, is how is Jim Harbaugh going to attack Michigan State in the second half? Because in games...
That's the issue. In games that tend to be close, sometimes Michigan does become a little bit too conservative. They might settle on the run because, similar to the Lions, the Michigan Wolverines want to pound the hell out of the rock. And sometimes, if Michigan State can build up a lead, then there's a situation where that might have to be thrown out the window. And how is John O'Korn going to handle adversity? How are they going to handle if they have a lead? What are they going to do in that fourth quarter? So I'm fascinated to see what adjustments are made at halftime. I do believe right now it's pretty much a toss-em kind of game. I feel like whoever executes better is going to have the advantage. Whoever earns the most turnovers is going to have an opportunity, and who handles the momentum swings the best. So I don't see, and let me know if I'm wrong. I feel like at this point in time, the two squads are pretty much close to even going into this one, right? I think for the most part, you could make that claim, and you could sit there and you could point to some stats to say, yeah, this is kind of where it's at. Look, I think if we were to do like a checklist, I think you could sit there and by the time it's all said and done, you'd probably have even check marks on both sides. That being said, I need to know what Mark D'Antonio is going to do to sit there and help these Michigan State Spartans come away with a victory this weekend. Oh, there it is.
Let that sink in for a second. In terms of the two songs we're playing, I think this one has a little bit more meat to it. Sound stronger. The Michigan State fight song. Okay, so you're asking me, what does Michigan State got to do? Here's what they got to do, okay? John O'Korn's going to look to extend plays on third down. They're obviously going to utilize rollouts. They're going to try to incorporate the tight ends, which they discovered a couple weeks ago versus Purdue. Obviously, a tight end is a quarterback's best friend, but at the same time, what Michigan State needs to do is limit the run. They have to start the game fast. I think that if they can come out to a 14-point lead, force Michigan into a game plan that they're not used to, not accustomed to. I feel like without starting fast, in a close contest, I think the edge, because the game's in Ann Arbor, goes to the Michigan Wolverines. But if you start out fast, if you throw out the record books, if you play a little bit outside of your comfort zone, maybe a couple deep passes to Felton Davis, maybe some unique run plays that are, a little bit different, maybe a little bit less conservative on offense, and LJ Scott, Madre London, Holmes can do some things. I feel like one of the biggest keys for Michigan State is figuring out and solving Michigan's defense. It's going to be a nightmare. I feel like Michigan's going to be in that backfield and forcing Lewerke to do some things. If plays break down and Lewerke can extend plays on second and third down, then you're looking at a situation where Michigan State can handle Michigan's defense. But it's going to be super tough. I feel like the start of the game is going to be so huge. What does Michigan do on their first couple possessions? If they can score touchdowns, me and Jason had a conversation, and I'm feeling like you can almost bet 99% the first team that scores 2 touchdowns is probably going to be the overwhelming favorite to win the game. I feel like it's a 17-13 game, and it's going to be super tight all the way through. It might not be the most pleasant game aesthetically, but 2 big factors I think have to be in place in order for Michigan State to win the game. They have to win the running game battle, which is a given, and they have to win the turnover battle. I feel like if they don't, if Michigan State succumbs to the mistakes that they made versus Notre Dame, because it's a tough game, it's a situation where you're going on the road, it's a situation where Michigan's defense is going to pin their ears back and try to limit everything. And so Michigan State has to approach this contest like it's the final game of the season, go all out offensively, and try to confuse John O'Korn. I feel like now that there's a new quarterback that people are just like, oh, we saw him versus Purdue. This is the guy that's going to be able to do some things. I feel like when it's the first time you start this season for John O'Korn, you just haven't seen everything yet. It's not safe to assume that he's just going to show up on the field and throw for 5 touchdowns. Many fans of Michigan believe that's what's going to be the case. I just don't yet. I feel like there might be a free gift interception in the works there for the Michigan State Spartans, and they have to have some unsung heroes step up and do something. That's why I feel like it's going to be a good contest where if they can limit Michigan on offense, maybe, just maybe, you could extend a lead if you do earn it.
And I think what you said, where the controlling the run game and controlling the turnover game, I think for Michigan State, both of those go hand in hand, especially with a guy like LJ Scott. He can't sit there and he can't turn the ball over, and he can't be the turnover machine. He's got to be the prototypical runner that Michigan State wants him to be. He's got to sit there, take care of the ball, secure it, and he's got to be able to get downfield, and he's got to be able to punch the ball into the end zone if Michigan State's going to have any hopes of getting a victory in Ann Arbor on Saturday.
And looking at this contest, who needs this game more, Michigan or Michigan State? Because here's my thinking. Michigan State can suffer a loss in this one because of the fact the team is so young. It's a young team. There is some talent. Lewerke's going to be there probably for the foreseeable future. You have a core on offense and defense that's going to be there now for the next couple seasons. Mark D'Antonio is trying to reestablish the reputation of Michigan State. As long as Michigan State doesn't get blown out, I feel like then they can go through the season and potentially still earn 7 to 8 wins. If Michigan loses, you now face a storm of question regarding Jim Harbaugh's ability to win big games. What is going on in these rivalry contests? You know, losing 2 games at the big house to Michigan State in your first 3 years, it's a terrible look. So I feel going into the game, all the pressure is on Michigan's side. I think Michigan State might come into the contest and play loose and let it rip, pin their ears back and say, screw it. Nobody really thinks we're going to win. 13-point underdog to start the week. I feel like that can be used as a rallying cry to get over the hump, and I feel like Michigan State really has nothing to lose.
Yeah, I think Michigan has less room for error in this game than Michigan State does. Look, Michigan State can sit there and totally crap the bed this game and still come away during the season with at least 8 wins. And that's a huge improvement if you look at where they were at last year. Last year they were a team that only had 3 wins. They've already matched that. So if I was to tell you that, hey, Michigan State's going to have 3 wins last year and then come away with 8 wins this year, you take it all day long. So I think Michigan State is playing with much less pressure than Michigan is. Michigan is going to have to find a way to get a victory here. And like you said, I think Michigan State can come into this game a little bit more relaxed. There's a little bit less hype surrounding them. Michigan, on the other hand, has to come in, and it almost has to be a win. And you're right. If you sit there and you lose 2 games in your home stadium to a rival in your first 3 years, that's a huge problem. I mean, we've got something that we've got to talk about now. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I think there is much less pressure on Michigan State than Michigan. That being said, I think Michigan has everything set up for them to win.
Would it be a bad loss, given the excuse that could be made that, look, our guy, Wilton Spate, who won the contest last year in East Lansing, is not there? Can an excuse be built in?
No, I don't think you can build that excuse in because, look, you have a week off. You sit there, you rediscover that you have tight ends, and your offensive coordinator figures out how to utilize them. And now you sit there and you game plan. You know that Wilton Spate isn't going to be available for this game. So you know that John O'Korn's your quarterback going into this game. You've got to figure this out. No, you can't build an excuse in. If you lose this game, there should be nothing but hell and fire for Jim Harbaugh to sit there and withstand for the next week. This is a must-win game for the Michigan Wolverines. You cannot lose this game at home, late at night, not playing the way that you've been playing, it's not allowed. You can't do it. Michigan State can withstand a loss here. Michigan cannot.
I will be at home enjoying the game with the kids and the family. I'll be tweeting up a storm. You can follow along at Detroit Podcast. I'll definitely be ribbing at them every time Michigan State scores or everything bad that happens to Michigan. But at the same time, to clarify, we have equal representation here at the network. In the office, we have a couple Michigan State hats, a couple things related to Michigan, and basically it's about a 50-50 split in that half of the crew here supports Michigan, half of the crew supports Michigan State, and the other half don't really give a shit, but they enjoy us bantering back and forth, so it makes it for a fun thing. I do realize, though, I want to say something, though. We gain followers Monday through Sunday. You know the only time I see a little bit of a dip at 10 to 15 followers a week is Saturday, the 3-hour window when I'm tweeting during the Michigan game.
Well,
That's
yeah,
the
it's because you're a
Is it
troll.
obvious? Is it obvious that I'm the guy behind the account? And
It's because you're a troll.
listen, I give Michigan love. I give them a little bit of respect. But the only time I lose followers is during the 3-hour window when I'm tweeting about Michigan. It's really weird.
I will say this, all right? I will say this. Most Michigan fans,
Can tell.
they're fickle, okay?
Very.
And if you're not sitting there blowing them,
Oh,
then
man.
they don't want nothing to do with you.
Yes.
A friend of the podcast, Justin Rose, when Michigan was playing Purdue, he was sitting there making some comments, and there was this Michigan fan who sat there, and he was just sitting there giving Justin crap. And then I sat there, and I jumped onto the thread, and usually I'm not that guy. I just kind of sit back, and I eat my popcorn, and I watch whatever's happening happen. And I jumped in, and I said, no, Justin's right. These are the issues. Take off your glasses and take a look. And he was like, okay, Spartan fan. And Justin was like, dude, he's a huge Wolverine fan. And I was like, dude, I'm sitting in like the Wolverine's den right now. I'm at my stepdad's house watching this game, and it's a Michigan viewing party. And I'm going to tell you what the problems are. So no,
Is there a divide?
If you're not blowing a Michigan fan, they get upset.
Is there a divide among Michigan fans with the diehards, the Bo era, versus the new wave of fans that say, look, you know what, we can accept Jim Harbaugh for whatever, and then you got the diehards that say, look, Jim Harbaugh has to win a national title. We are Michigan, you know, the team. Is there a little bit of a divide among the Michigan fans?
I don't think there's a divide there. I think what it is you have...
You can't complain. There's a certain group of fans where you cannot criticize Michigan.
Yes. You have...
That's the issue.
Yes. You have Michigan fans who can't sit there and realistically look at what the team has in front of it, and you can't realistically look at what's going on with the team. It's Michigan does no wrong, and I'm not one of those guys. If we suck, we suck. I'm going to tell you how it is. Do you know what I'm saying? If you're making mistakes, I'm going to tell you what's going on. For weeks, I was saying, utilize your tight ends. Dumb down the offensive play for the offensive line because you've got too much going on. The moment they did that, they actually looked like a good offensive football team. Granted, Wilton Spate almost had to die, and it looks like he might be Tony Romo in the future because his back might be broken. But whatever. There are Michigan fans where blue does absolutely nothing wrong ever. And then you've got Michigan fans who are like, look, they're going to go gag on a spoon, and it's just the way it is. And Harbaugh might be a problem. And I'm one of those guys who can sit there and realistically take a look at what's going on and say that. And a lot of guys don't like that, and they don't want to hear that. But you know what? I don't care what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you how it is.
All right, hit me with a score. Who you got Saturday night, 7:30, the Big House?
I think you were close with what you said. You were like, it's going to be like a 17-14 game. It's going to be a close game. I think this game is going to be nip and tuck, especially for the first 3, maybe 3.5 quarters. I think Michigan pulls away late, and I think the scoreboard doesn't know justice for how close of a game this actually was. I think your final score is going to look something like 27-21, with it being really, really close there through 3.5 quarters. Michigan lays up another field goal late in the fourth quarter and kind of stretches that margin of victory.
This game screams overtime to me. I feel like both teams are going to scratch and claw. Both teams are going to have momentum swings. Both teams are going to force turnovers because of the fact that it's a rivalry game. I feel like it's going to be, I feel like the game's going to finish 17-17, and then Michigan will take over in overtime. They'll be able to, in the first drive, get a touchdown. Then Michigan State will have the opportunity, and they will fail. So I feel like the final score potentially could be in the neighborhood of 23 or 24-17, with Michigan holding on just based on the couple factors that gives them the edge in terms of the game being at home, slightly better talent across the board, but it's going to be a slobber knocker. I feel like it could go either way, and so I'm going to sit back, enjoy the game, and definitely have some fun with the fans on Twitter and go back and forth and try to be as objective as possible. And I feel like I have been. Our own Vito Jerome Turco will be in the press box. He'll be taking it all in, so follow him on Twitter at Vito Jerome. Follow Adam at Adam R. STROZ, and follow us at Detroit Podcast for the biggest college football game in the state at the time, 7:30, Detroit Sports Podcast, the place to be.
If Michigan sits there and they lose, I'm shutting my phone off because I'm not going to have another rehappening of what happened a couple years ago. I'm just not going to deal with it.
All right, let's take our first time out. You have some interest in some hockey that we got to talk about.
Season's right around the corner.
A sport that we've neglected just a little bit, but the sport is ramping up. The season debuts tonight as you download this podcast. Stay with us. You're listening to Doc and Jock on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Doc and Jock here for Podomatic.com, our host site. When Adam and I first started this project, we were looking for a quality place to host all of our recorded audio. And thank goodness we found Podomatic.com. Very easy to use, great customer service, have been around for over a decade. All of our recorded audio has been uploaded to Podomatic. If you're starting a brand new project, if you're listening to this and you say to yourself, wow, I can throw down some audio, find a place where you can record quality audio and upload it to Podomatic.com. Doc and Jock, Jason, Vito, Jerry Mallory, all the hosts here are going to recommend one host site, and one host site alone, Podomatic.com. Episode 217 rolls right along, sir.
Before we get into hockey, and we're still kind of coming off of some football here, Bleacher Report's got this great article. It talks about what it's like to play quarterback and have to go under center, and how sometimes your center can have the sweatiest butt alive. So I would implore you to sit there and check out Bleacher's Report, The Legend of Swamp Ass. It looks. I'm only perusing it quickly here in between breaks on the show, but it looks hilarious.
All right, the season's going to kick off tonight, Little Caesars Arena. Red Wings take on the Minnesota Wild. It's going to be a fantastic contest. A lot of expectations maybe have dwindled with this group of Red Wings, but at the same time, from what you saw this preseason, there are some quality storylines, if we choose to look at it, that could emerge. But first and foremost, though, I think the overriding storyline that has affected the Wings is this whole situation with Andreas Athanasiou. Still not signed, and inevitably, what it will take for the Red Wings to sign him is to cut a couple players, and that distance apart, whether it be 600,000 to 800,000, that window, it's large enough where it could cost you a player or two, and the Red Wings seem to have planted their flag and said, this is our final offer. And as of the recording, he hasn't signed yet. That's a big problem.
That's a huge problem, especially because he was a beacon of light, especially on offense for this team. I mean, he was a guy who could sit there and burn other players on the ice with his speed. He could sit there and create goals with his speed, and he would sit there and score for you. He was a leading goal scorer for this team last season. And every time he touched the puck, it was like you were waiting for something magical to happen. And on top of that, his goal production and his point production per his ice time was tops in the league. You now take that away from this team, and again, the biggest issue this team had in 2016 was goal scoring. How do you sit there and compensate for that? How do you compensate for that going down the stretch? And look, I don't think any of us expect this team to make the playoffs this year. I just don't expect that from this squad because they have so many holes all over the place, whether it be offensively or defensively. He was a guy who you knew when he was on the ice, you needed to watch him. If you were playing defense against him, you knew that you had to be on your toes because if he caught you slipping, he was going to get by you and he was going to create a scoring chance. And now you don't have that because Ken Holland has mismanaged the way that this salary cap has been put together. And
And I feel like
it's a huge black eye.
And I feel like selling me on Furk being the threat is ridiculous. Don't sell me on that.
Martin Furk's a guy that you just sat there and you just waved away a few seasons. I think it was last year. You waved him away and he ended up getting picked up by Carolina to start the year. And then you were lucky enough to get him back because Carolina was like, we see why you waived him. And now he is on your opening day roster.
But in looking at what's happened so far in the preseason, you've seen a little bit of progression from Anthony Mantha. He seems like he's taken over a little bit, willing to do the things that are needed to stay on the ice, and he's done some things to be able to put the puck in the net, which is what the Red Wings need at this point in time.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I like what I've seen out of Anthony Mantha. I don't need Anthony Mantha going out there, though, and being the bruiser. I don't need him to be the guy who every single night has a Gordie Howe hat trick, because he's sitting there and he's the only one willing to do the dirty work. You know, I like the fact that he's willing to scrap. I like the fact that he's willing to win the battles along the boards, and he's got the body and he's got the physical play to be able to do that. I don't need him to go out there, though, and sacrifice his goal scoring to sit there and substitute that with penalty minutes, because he's got to go out there and he's got to protect other guys on the ice. He needs some protection himself. So I'm going to need Anthony Mantha to be the offensive talent in the less, I don't know exactly what the word I'm looking for.
Less of an enforcer, more of a leader.
Yes, I thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, I need him to go out there, and I need him to be wizardfully scoring goals and less out there bruising guys' heads because somebody wants to get a little bit frisky with a guy like a Franz Nielsen or a guy like a Henrik Zetterberg. I need him to go out there. I need him to put pucks in the net.
It's safe to assume that most fans don't think this is a playoff team, so the expectations are pretty low. The expectations are pretty low. What do you think the Red Wings are capable of, and what should their goals be realistically for the 2017-2018 season? Opening a new arena, that's going to carry them for the first couple months or so. But realistically, to me, I feel like we need to see a bunch of young players take the next step. You can't have all these guys that you signed big money deals to making over $4 million a year scoring 14 goals. You got to have some of these guys step up into that 20 to 25 goal range, and you got to basically, keeping it simple, the goaltenders have to do a great job. They got to keep you in games. The defense has to do a lot better job of getting pucks out of the zone and not sustaining pressure like they did last year. If you remember last year, there was a lot of play in the Red Wings' own zone, which resulted in a bunch of goals being scored against the Red Wings. And I feel like the Red Wings this year are going to take the next step in terms of playing a different brand of hockey in terms of, hey, getting the puck into the other end of the zone and scoring more. I feel like when you score at the clip they did last year, it's nowhere near enough. It's going to put you in the neighborhood of, if they performed last year in terms of scoring, it's going to put you in the 80-point range. And in the East, you got to be 95 points plus to even sniff the postseason. So my opinion is, I think they fall short again. They don't make the postseason, but I do think we do see progression in Larkin. We do see progression in Mantha. We do see potentially other players step up and tell us, look, hey, maybe this Rasmussen is the real deal in his first campaign with the Red Wings.
Yeah, I think this whole season, the storyline that'll be weaved throughout it is going to be the development of young players. So I think you're spot on there. You've got to see some of these young kids take that next step forward. You got to be able to see a guy like an Anthony Mantha, a Dylan Larkin. You got to be able to see those guys really sit there and start to shine, and you need to sit there and be able to say, hey, that's our future. These guys are going to eventually get us to the promised land, and I don't think you're making the promised land this year, but I want to be able to see guys like that. I want to see Dylan Larkin be able to develop his game more. And this is something that, I bitched and complained about last year. I really like Dylan Larkin. I like what he brings to this team. But I need to see Dylan Larkin be able to get dirty. He's got to be able to win battles along the boards. He's got to be able to take the puck into the middle. No more of this, wing it around the boards and I skate circles around the net and I sit there and I take shots from the outside. No, get the puck and take it to where it's dirty. Take it right to the middle and get shots on from the middle. Anthony Mantha, I need to see him be as productive as he was in spurts last year. I need to see him sitting there really leaning on the stick and sitting there putting pucks in behind the goaltenders. I need to see more development out of some of these younger players. I need to see what this defense is going to bring to the table, because this defense, the cast that we've got manning the blue line, is totally different. It's a nice mix of young players with a few old guys mixed in between there. And when I say old guys, I mean like Nicholas Cronwell is still on this team. The fact that he hasn't died yet amazes me. And yeah, Jonathan Erickson is still there, so you're going to have to deal with that guy too. But I need to see how this mix on this defensive line kind of comes together. It would be nice to see Blashill really pair these guys up where you get a young guy and an old guy, and you kind of have the old guy take the young guy underneath his wing, and they're able to sit there and produce together. You know, that would be nice to see. I don't want to see a veteran out there with another veteran. We don't necessarily need that, because at that point they're arguing about who's going to get to use the Vespa to get back because they've just got burned and somebody's got to go cover the blue line. So it's going to be fun to see this team kind of grow and mature, and that's what I'm expecting. I'm not expecting this team to compete with the likes of the top in the East. I'm not expecting this team to sit there and make a playoff run. I just want this team to be competitive. I want them to grow. I want to see guys sit there and we can say, hey, look, going into next year, we've got some guys who we can say, yeah, that's a player. That's a stud. That's somebody to watch.
$5 million question. Who's the best goalie for the Red Wings to compete in 2017? Because most people, when you look at it, kind of feel like Jimmy Howard gives them more of a stabilizing force. Peter Mrazek has the higher upside, and he can do more of the superstar type stuff, but he doesn't execute that consistently enough to give anybody any confidence. So I feel like it might be equal to start, and they're going to see who emerges. But I feel like at this point in time, Jimmy Howard gives the squad the best opportunity to get 2 points every night.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think Jimmy Howard, night in, night out, is that guy who's going to give this team the best ability to sit there and win games. I think potential, though, is still with Peter Mrazek. And I think the big question is which goaltender is going to be healthy as the season rolls along, because that was a lot of the issue last year, was health. Both these goaltenders, when they're healthy, I think they're on. And especially Peter Mrazek, when he's healthy, he's kind of a game changer in between the pipes. He just has to have his head screwed on straight. You know, I think he sat there in his first little run here. He was kind of, everybody was tooting his own horn a little bit and saying like, yeah, hey, look, Peter Mrazek, he's that deal, and he can make some miraculous saves, and he looks really good. I think he started to buy his own hype. And when you start to believe your own hype, you don't show up every day to the office. You're not doing what you got to do and what got you to that point. So if Peter Mrazek is healthy and Peter Mrazek has his head screwed on straight, I think he will be the guy to lead the goaltenders to help this team do better. But I think Jimmy Howard going into the season, especially after what I seen last year, is going to be the guy who gives you your best opportunity, whether he's healthy or not, to win games. And that's an issue. All
right, game one is upon us. Do you think the Red Wings are a playoff team as constructed?
No.
Not a playoff team. One more year, huh?
Nope. Yeah, at least one more year. I don't think that they have enough along the blue line. I don't like what they did when they went out this season. Again, you're not going to have a guy like an Athanasiou as it stands right now to sit there and be able to go out there and look. That guy sits, every time he's on the ice, he gives you points. You know what I'm saying? It's like every single other shift, that guy is sitting there getting in behind the defense and creating an opportunity, and you don't have him. So, no, you don't have enough offensively. I don't know what you have defensively. I still think there needs to be more turnover of veteran players to young players, and I just don't know if we're going to get that this season. Maybe another year, maybe 2 years. You know, hey, I could be completely wrong. Would it be the first time I've been completely wrong? It won't be the last time I'm completely wrong. I need to see the changing of the guard. I need the old to go away, and I need the new to come in, and I need to see the new really take over. I haven't seen Dylan Larkin take over a game yet. He's not been the player that I think we all are dying for him to be. Same thing with Anthony Mantha. We've seen Anthony Mantha take over parts of games. We've just not seen him take over a complete game and then take over a complete series of games. We need to see that more often than not.
All right, our final timeout. We'll come back with the DocNJock Pro-Wrestling Report. Awesome week of wrestling. We will look forward to breaking it down ahead of a major pay-per-view, Hell in a Cell, which happens to take place at the new Little Caesars Arena this Sunday. Stay with us. If you've enjoyed what you've listened to, thank you so much. The easy and free way to keep the wind in the sails of the Detroit Sports Podcast Network is visit our website, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. It's where you can go to click through the Amazon banner, buy any tickets in regards to Detroit sports. It's where you can see which show airs when, and it's the free and easy way to support us. Thank you to all the new subscribers. You can find our podcast anywhere that podcasts are located: iTunes, Stitcher, Podomatic, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. And we couldn't be able to roll out daily podcasts without your continued support. It's greatly appreciated. Check us out, DetroitSportsPodcast.com.
Hey, this is Brian Peña. I always join the Vito podcast, the best podcast in the United States.
I'm excited because this Sunday, Hell in a Cell, me and the missus are going to go down to the new Little Caesars Arena. It will be my second time at the new joint because this Friday, I'm part of the Horizon League coverage in that I was invited because of our coverage of Oakland basketball. The Horizon League is hosting their event, their kickoff event, this Friday, so I'm going to go walk all over the place. I'm going to be there for about 4 hours from noon to 4 o'clock this Friday. I'm going to get the lay of the land, figure out how to get to different points of the arena, figure out how to enjoy the press box, how to enjoy the entire arena. I'm definitely going to check out the steep nature of the Upper Bowl and really assess, are people that are messaging us, either scaredy cats or is it really real? And then Sunday, I'm going to sit as close as possible to Hell in a Cell. I want to see all the action, all the superstars right now that I favor a little bit more on SmackDown than Raw are going to be there. Jinder Mahal, the glorious entrance of Bobby Roode, AJ Styles, Jinder Mahal, Kevin Owens, Shane McMahon. What else am I going to ask for? I do have to be careful. I don't want to come back next week with a hoarse voice because I'm feeling like one of those fans this week that's just going to go wild, take my belt, maybe have a couple signs, and just have a good old time with it.
Yeah, dude, you're lucky enough you're going to be, roughly 20 rows off the ring?
I'm going to be sitting section 109, row 3, so I'm not on the main floor, but I'll be in the first couple rows of the seating in the lower deck. So I'll enjoy it, and you never know. Maybe if someone throws something towards the stands, I don't know. I don't know the lay of the land yet. I haven't been to Little Caesars Arena, but I'll check it out this Friday. And it'll be the first time a wrestling event happens at Little Caesars, so we can get a lay of the land to see where the best seats are. But I felt like those seats at that spot would give me a good viewpoint of the entrances, of the ring, and 2 Hell in a Cell matches. I'm excited. I'm fully excited to be part of it. You can follow us on Twitter at Detroit Podcast, and I'll be tweeting definitely throughout the entire show.
Yeah, man, it should be a good show.
It seems like a decent card.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you want to start with SmackDown and talk about the go-home show, or do you want to start with Raw?
No, let's start with SmackDown because I felt like each matchup that's going to occur this Sunday was addressed, but not with the quality that it needed to be to heighten the event. Everything was done. It was placed. We know what's happening. I just felt like you could have moved storylines a little bit further than what you did with that show. So I thought the show was okay overall. I just didn't have that it moment for me to say, yes, if I'm not a wrestling fan, if I'm a casual dude peeking into that SmackDown, I don't think that the casual dude would watch that show on SmackDown and be like, yeah, I got to get the network.
Yeah, I felt like it was a very predictable go-home show.
Exactly.
I didn't feel like it left me on the edge of my seat and left me buying for more. Like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for Sunday to roll around so I can see what's going to happen next. I just kind of felt like it was like, all right, well, that's what we got. So we'll just kind of see what happens from there.
Exactly. What was one of the memorable moments for you on SmackDown? I felt like, for me, I thought that the Usos promo was pretty decent. I feel like the Usos are really taking the next step, and their feud with the New Day is going to culminate in one of those Hell in a Cell matchups. I feel like the Usos, in terms of the tag team, are kind of getting into that upper echelon in terms of like Demolition, the Hart Foundation. In terms of upper echelon tag teams, their new theme and the way they're presenting themselves is of a high quality. I feel like the highest quality is when they come out and do their thing, whether it be a match or some promos. I was impressed.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if they stole the show this Sunday. If the tag matchup sat there and was the best matchup, and when everything was said and done and the dust settles, we're sitting there, we're talking about that come Monday and Tuesday, and then next thing you know, when you hear us again on Thursday, that's the one match that we're really sitting there opining about. It seems like, I don't know if it's just, if there maybe is some animosity there, or if it's just the Usos have really kind of sitting there and taking their creativity and their in-ring performance to that next level. Because they've always had a really good promo skills, but it seems like they're on another level right now. And then you know what you're going to get from the New Day. The New Day's always been really good in the ring and on the mic, and it just seems like now that they've got somebody to really kind of go back and forth with, they've heightened their skills as well. I feel like that is going to be the one match when all is said and done on Sunday where we're like, man, that was awesome.
And so one of the things that you don't want to do is keep squashing people. I feel like Mike Kanellis is getting squashed week in and week out, and you watch him perform against Bobby Roode and you go, this kind of matchup isn't helping him and his character along the way. Bobby Roode needs to be in a little bit better matchups going into a feud with Dolph Ziggler. And so I felt like that match was a little bit flat. I felt like, the Randy Orton segment with Aiden English fell flat too. So I like the open. I like seeing Jinder Mahal kind of come out and surprise Shinsuke Nakamura. But watching that intro promo, I was just like, Shinsuke, I don't see him progressing on the mic. I feel like each opportunity that he's been given on the mic has been really disappointing. And it's like, I think it's time to give him a mouthpiece, and it's time to stop having him talk, because he speaks in a way where the words are in his head and he's trying to eloquently enunciate them so it doesn't sound like he's slurring his words. And it comes out all hokey, and I'm not impressed with what he says. And I feel like at this point in time, knowing that if you had done any prep work, he would have been better served to be known like an enigma. A dude that doesn't talk. A dude just comes out, stands there, kicks some ass, and goes home. He doesn't have to have that part of the game because of his legacy. So it's just, when he talks, it just sounds like a kid to me.
Yeah, and I have on our show sheet here, I was like, Nakamura has a good promo, and it's a good promo for him. And you're absolutely right. Everything you said is spot on. Whenever he sits there and speaks, I want so badly for this to be the moment where I'm like, yes, he gets it, and the crowd gets it, and everybody gets it, and it's awesome, because I know what his legacy is. I know what he was in New Japan. I know what he can bring to WWE, and I know what he can bring to a WWE championship match. I'm always left wanting a little bit more. His promos always seem to have a hole in them, and I think you might be right. You need to maybe pair him off with somebody. I don't know if maybe that's Paul Heyman. I don't know. I'm not sure who it could be at this point. I'm always felt left like I wanting more after his promo, because I feel like he's got everything. And I feel like the WWE announcers are pushing him so hard as this creative artist and this, that, and the other thing, and it's
flat.
Yeah, he does his promo, and I'm just kind of like, all right. You know what? It's always like that one hot chick, right? You're like, man, she's so hot, she's so hot, she's so hot. Then you go on like 2 dates with her, and you're like, she's not that hot. She's really not that hot. And that's what I feel like I'm getting with Nakamura.
And now when you switch gears and talk about Raw, when you tease the Shield reunion, you win the week, period. It was awesome. I don't know if you geeked out, but when I saw it, we talked about it. We kind of have known that it was going to be a situation when you saw The Miz and the Miztourage and how they were going in on Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins. You kind of knew. But the swerve, which makes it awesome, is way better to include Sheamus and Cesaro. It was like the light bulb went off at the meeting room, and they were like, wait a minute. Why would you have The Miz with the Miztourage against the Shield? That's weak. No one's going to buy that. Let's add Sheamus and Cesaro to the mix, and it all blends perfectly together. The destruction of Roman Reigns was awesome. It moves the storyline across. I felt like Raw was a decent show. And then when you tease the Shield, it does kind of, bring about some debates as to whether Roman Reigns needs to be with the Shield, but it was a nice tease, and I can't wait to see how the feud progresses, because The Miz, Sheamus, and Cesaro, I felt like was awesome when Braun Strowman destroyed Seth Rollins. You had a situation now where, okay, you elevate Braun Strowman, you have Seth Rollins, you open the match, you open Raw with a quality matchup, and you have situations now where, Sheamus and Cesaro can pick up the scraps when there's some damage to be done, and you elevate that feud. So I thought, all in all, the way that whole program was woven together was pretty decent.
Yeah, I thought Raw did a really, really good job this week. I liked Raw a lot more than I liked SmackDown. And especially, like you said, you sit there and you tease the Shield getting back together, and the way you do it. You basically took a crap sandwich, because we all expected it to be The Miz and the Miztourage feuding with the reunited Shield, and then you sit there, you bring the bar in, and there's your swerve, and now you took a crap sandwich and you gave it some meat, and you gave it some steak, and you gave it a little bit of gusto. Something else I liked from Raw was them sitting there and Bray not doing your usual Bray promo where you're kind of left scratching your head and you're like, what the hell did I just watch? He did this little tease for Sister Abigail. You had the where they would sit there and they would cross the screens over and you're like, whoa, that's kind of creepy. You look like the girl from The Ring for a little bit. I thought that was done well. The one thing where I'm left kind of scratching my head a little bit, but I don't mind it, is everything with Mickie James. All right. Like, I think Mickie James has looked the hottest she's looked in forever. Like, she's got MILF down to a T. Like, she is dead nuts killing it. Her body's banging and her promos are awesome. And then
they keep calling her old and decrepit now.
I don't get it. Like, physically, it's missing. Do you know what I'm saying? It physically, I'm not like, she's not old. She's not decrepit. She's in better shape than 90% of the chicks on this roster. And you're calling her old and decrepit. And when she gets in the ring, she's pretty solid. So I'm not getting it there. It's a total miss for me.
What were a couple other moments from Raw that you walked away going, okay, I like it?
I thought I like when Braun came out and Braun killed Seth, and then Ambrose came out, and I like how in the end it kind of circled all the way back and they wrapped that up with the Shield reunion. I thought that was really good.
It just makes sense to open shows with wrestling. It's just, you know,
I don't need the 20-minute promo.
Nobody likes it. I think that you can add a 20-minute promo. Just add it after the first match. Yep. Give us 15 minutes of wrestling. That's why we tune in, and then you can elevate any storyline. Hell, you can even have the combatants do a promo after a match. You can do all the interviews. Just give us a match. That, I think most people would co-sign for that, is just open a show with some wrestling.
Yep. I did like Enzo going through, and I like
classic.
I liked this promo. Okay, I liked this promo where he sat there and he basically obliterated the entire cruiserweight. I don't like him killing the entire cruiserweight because I feel like he took a dump truck and he just ran over the cruiserweight division and then he buried it with like 25 pounds of dirt. So good luck getting your cruiserweight division back up from that. I felt like them bringing out Kalisto was a total miss.
Yeah, everyone thought it was a total miss. It was like, wow, it's Kalisto. Thanks for bringing out a jobber, basically, and making him a featured component of your show at the main event level. It was like, no. And then, you know, it's one of those things where, yes, it's the right fit for Kalisto, but if you wanted to bring him out, maybe you don't do it in the main event.
No, I felt like that was a total swing and a miss. You could have brought somebody, whether it be somebody from NXT up and elevated them, or elevated somebody else that you really wanted to sit there and showcase. And I'm getting tired of seeing Enzo get just beat down and beat down and beat down and beat down. Look, he's your cruiserweight champ. At some point, you need to start giving him a little bit of backing here. Let him win a couple matches here and there. And at some point, you're going to have to take that belt off him, because right now that belt is worthless.
And so one final concern that I have with Raw is that you can see that when the Hardys were brought back, they were going to be a tag team that were going to be used to elevate the likes of Gallows and Anderson, to elevate others in the tag team division. But now a wrench was thrown in the mix. Jeff Hardy is out with a shoulder injury, and he's got a big issue. And so now we've seen Matt Hardy kind of team up with Jason Jordan and do some things in the ring. But I say to myself, okay, I understand where creative has gone with the Hardys and what they wanted, but now there's been a change. And so what does that mean? Does it mean that potentially Jeff Hardy is going to be like a mentor for somebody? Is he going to be just the continued character that he is? I felt like you have now an opportunity, a perfect chance to highlight Matt Hardy and elevate him maybe into the Intercontinental title picture, or maybe elevate him into a different scenario. I don't think I'm personally comfortable with him in a mid-card status when you got a guy with all that experience and you got a gimmick that you could, even if you're not going to go full broken Matt Hardy, you could do more than what they're doing. And I feel like they're misusing a talent that they could utilize to really do some things and provide some entertainment on television.
And I think you're spot on right there. But the thing is, I don't think Vince nor creative has ever seen
money in him?
Yes, Matt Hardy being the guy. It's always been Jeff's show, and then there was his brother Matt. The thing is, Matt's got a ton of creativity. The broken gimmick is still over, even though I think it's starting to wane. I don't know if you're going to go with the Awoken gimmick or what you're going to go.
And what you could do is less action in the ring. Just now he can kind of go similar to others that have just done vignettes on other shows. Just, hey, you know, weren't the broken vignettes some of the most creative, some of the awesome television? Yeah.
Some of the highest rated stuff on TNA when it was TNA. So at some point, maybe you keep beating him down, and this thing with Jason Jordan just isn't working, and maybe that's the straw that breaks the camel's back. And next thing you know, we've got the awoken Matt Hardy. I don't know. They're going to have to do something with him. I don't like them necessarily pairing him with Jason Jordan. I don't know if this will give the rub to Jason Jordan. I don't know what they're going to do with it. At some point, you gotta let Matt do what Matt wants to do, as long as it's within the confines of, I guess, not the broken gimmick, because it's starting to get messy there, and everything with Impact is getting really messy, and it just, Impact's a total disaster right now. I have no idea what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. They're trying to make money by not spending money, and me and you both as businessmen know that you don't make money unless you spend money.
Yep.
And I'm the total cheapskate out of the two of us, and I even know that. So I don't know what's going on there, but at some point they're going to have to do something with Matt Hardy. I'm just not sure what it is, because you're not going to see Jeff now until probably after WrestleMania, because he's having rotator cuff surgery, and that's a long recovery process.
All right, so you and I are in agreement. Raw won the week,
yes,
4-2 since our contest began.
That's right, and that's kind of going into this week, I thought SmackDown had the real shot because it was a go-home show. I just felt as a go-home show, it missed on certain things. I felt like it was okay. It just could have been better.
Great podcast. Always enjoy the conversation. All of us are greatly awaiting this weekend. It's going to be a fun time. Always enjoy chatting with you, sir. 217 straight Thursdays, and we're keeping this train rolling, brother. All is good.
That's right, man. Another great show. Had a lot of fun. It was when I was sitting there trying to, bounce things off you, and we're trying to put this show together, I was like, man, this show is just exploding with so much to talk about. We're going to start paring some things down, and then in the end, honestly, we could probably talk for another hour and a half about everything, but you got to sometimes leave it all on the cutting room floor.
For the Jock, Adam Strozinski, I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Looking forward to talking to you guys next week.
Go Lions, go blue, bye green, bye white.
The season's going to kick off tonight. I said Joe Louis.
You did say Joe Louis Arena.
Fuck.
That's right, LCA, baby. Way to be prepared for your own show, right? Way to do some research there.
This was locker room talk.
Second dick.
Sorry, Detroit. Didn't quite work out.
And all I can say is Detroit Sports Podcast scores.
I have voices in my head. They counsel me. They understand. They talk to me.